What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. We're doing Certificate from HackTheBox, which starts off with a pretty niche but cool file upload exploit in a PHP application. It accepts zip files and will unzip it into a directory, but it checks the extensions before performing that unzip operation to try to prevent any dangerous files from being uploaded. I'll show two ways to bypass this filter. The first by inserting a null byte, so when it creates the file, it chops off a portion of the file, letting us have a PHP file. The second way I find extremely cool. It was used in a phishing attack. It's called zip stacking, where we just use cat to combine two zip files into one. Some zip programs read the first file, others read the second file, and it's a pretty cool attack that I recommend you watching. Anyways, once we do that, we gain access to an account that has a PCAP file that can read a Kerberos request. We can extract that hash, crack it with hashcat, and gain access to an account that has some privileges on the Active Directory certificate service that lets us take ownership over an account that can take ownership over the disk. Windows EFS protects root.txt, so we have to get the administrator NTLM hash to read it. And to do that, we'll perform the golden ticket attack by extracting the signing key. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, -v enumerate versions, -vv for double verbose. This gives us things like the TTL, OA output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it certificate, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.71. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have 12 ports open, the first one being DNS on port 53, and the banner tells us it's simple DNS+. And whenever I see this banner, which is the default for Active Directory, I always just scroll down quickly and look. Yes, it is AD. We have LDAP exposed. And looking at the domain, we have certificate.htb. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my host file. So sudo v etc host. And we can add 10.10.11.71 certificate.htb. And it's also going to tell us the fully qualified name, which has the host name, DC01. So let's go ahead and add that as well. So we'll do dco1.certificate.htb. And I also like adding the host name or NetBIOS name, which is just dco1. We can save that. And the last thing about this service is we see a certificate-ltd-ca, which is a default certificate. Most likely Active Directory certificate services or ADCS is installed in this box. But let's go back to the top. So we had DNS. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Apache HTTPD, which is odd. Normally Windows runs on IIS, but if we look at the banner, we see Windows is running Apache, which is normally the XAMPP stack or XAMPP. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but it is Apache running on Windows. Additionally, the TTL is 127. If the box was running a Linux VM and then had Apache running there, I'd expect the TTL to be 126. The banner is also telling us PHP is configured for this Apache, so we know most likely it's a PHP web server. Let's look at what else we have. Kerberos, some RPC stuff, LDAP, probably SMB is next. Yes, more Kerberos, LDAP. Scrolling down, nothing really too interesting. It looked like that was like LDAP and global catalog, other just standard Active Directory things. There is an 8-hour clock skew, so if we want to do anything Kerberos related, we should run NTP date to sync our time. So let's go take a look at what else we have. We can run netexec real quick. So netexec smb dco1 certificate.htb. And what this is going to do is just, we can see if there's any open file shares. So we can do -- shares. And then I don't think you have to do it anymore, but we could specify a blank username and a blank password to see if we can log in that way. It doesn't look like we can. So we have login failure there. So let's see. Let's go over to the web server. So I'm going to go to certificate.htb. And do I have BurpSuite intercepting? I do. So let's turn that off. And we get a page. If we look at the links, we can see about.php is there. Contacts.php. So this is definitely going to be a PHP web server. All the extensions indicate that. We could look at the source to see if it's WordPress or things like that. We probably notice by the file structure on these links, you normally see a -wp-includes directory, things like that you'd find. We could run dirbuster. We can also just look at the HTTP history. Go to one of these. Let's see. Where is index.php? I probably should just intercept it, but nope. This is going to be where index.php is. We see it's giving us the PHP session cookie, no Laravel cookies or things like that. So most likely just hand-jammed PHP code, no big framework like Laravel or Cake PHP, things like that. That also confirms no WordPress, because WordPress would also have unique cookies. So there's a lot of things we can do on the website. I'm just going to jump through it really quick. If we scroll down, there is like classes. And if we click on a class, we need to enter a username. If we go to account, register, we can create an account. And I don't know why it just hangs randomly, but oh well. First name, let's do root@ipsec.rocks, password of password, and the username is going to be ipsec. We can specify student or teacher for account type. If we specify teacher, it'll need we need a contact support to verify the identity to activate the account. So I'm just going to do a student account. If we click submit, we get registration successful. We can log in here. So let's log in with ipsec and password. And let's see, if we go over to courses, we can click on a course and you have like ID is equal to 1. Normally I just add things like a single quote, and then we can do dash dash space dash. And right now I'm just testing for SQL injection quickly. Probably would send these type of things to SQL map just to find out. I also may send it to like FUF and then fuzz 1 through 9,999 to see if there's any hidden classes I don't have access to that potentially I could see, right? There's always those possibilities. Maybe they have a old course that they deleted softly, so like it's still accessible if you know the ID. And that could be one when they were building the website and have like sensitive information, things like that. But things like that I would be testing for. We have a feedback form. I'd probably test for like cross-site scripting here. We can click enroll. And if we do that, we have the course outline where we can watch videos supposedly or go to submit. If I click on submit, it tells us it accepts PDF, docx, PowerPoint, or Excel. And it can also be in zip archives. So I'm just going to test this real quick. I'm just going to do echo. We'll do please subscribe to ipsec.pdf. And then I'm going to do zip legit.zip ipsec.pdf. And we're going to try uploading this and see exactly what the behavior is. So let's go ipsec, HTB, certificate, legit.zip, upload. It tells us where the file is. If we click that, there we go. We can access this file. Our browser's trying to render it as a PDF because that's what the MIME type's coming back with. But if I curl it, it just says please subscribe. So all we have to do is put files in a zip, right? So let's try ipsec.php here. Let's do echo ipsec.php. Then we can do that zip command. Let's do zip. Instead of legit.zip, I'm going to call this test.zip, I guess. Go back to the upload, test.zip, submit, malicious content. So it is checking the extension within the zip file itself. We know it's not like the metadata of the zip because we didn't actually give it a PDF. We just had that PDF extension. And I know of 2 ways we can exploit this. We're going to talk about null bytes first, and that is a common like technique to bypass things. Because in the zip, it is going to be buffered, right? If I do a xxd on legit.zip, we see all the bytes that make up of this, and the file name is going to start right here. We see ipsec.pdf, and this is going to be IP right there, and 0.8, this is 10, and that's going to be the length of this, right? So if I do echo-n ipsec.pdf wc-c 10, let's create a new file. So I will do a touch ipsec.pdf 2, and I have to put 2 P's there, right? Let's add this. So we can do zip legit.zip ipsec.pdf 2. We'll xxd this again. So now we see 2 files in this. The ipsec.pdf, that's still 0A, which is 10. Now let's see pdf2 is right there. And now that is going to be 0B, right? So right after, before ipsec, we have 1C, and then back here is the byte, right? We can see the 1C right there, and then here is going to be the length. If we do this one more time, let's do 23. We have to create that file first. Let's do touch 23, sure. And then xxd legit.zip, where is, there's 2, here's 23. Let's see. It would be up here actually for the file structure, ipsec. There's Oh, there we go. 0C right there. Before it was like 0A, 0B, 0C. So that would be 10, 11, 12. So why this works is because when the PHP is reading the file name, it knows the length. So it's going to read this entire length right here, right? And then when it goes to write a file, if we do null byte, it's not like buffered or length terminated or whatever. It's just going to write until it reaches that null byte, and that's going to be what terminates it. So since PHP potentially is reading the full file name, including the null byte, we can still have a PDF extension on, but when it goes to extract that file and write to the file system, the null byte will terminate it, and that extension will get dropped. That is the theory of this attack, right? So we can test this out real quick. I'm going to grab a reverse shell. I always like using the reverse shell from this GitHub repo. I just Google Ivan reverse shell because it's like the one from Pentest Monkey that a lot of people use, but it works very well on Windows. The Pentest Monkey one does not work that well on Windows. So let's go to source, reverse, PHP shell, raw, and we can just wget this. And then I'm going to rename it just shell.php. Actually, let's rename it to shell.php. I'm going to do 2 periods and then PDF. And the reason why is I want to replace this null byte, this period with a null byte in burp. So we'll do that. And I'm going to zip, we'll call it shell.zip. Shell.zip. And then give it this file. Okay. And let's go back over to the server. So let's go not try again. Let's just click back. Let's go to browse. And then we called it what? Shell.zip. We can go to BurpSuite, proxy intercept on, submit. And then we have the hex here. So what I want to do is, I'll send it to repeater actually. We want to switch over to raw or hex right here. And this is going to let us modify the bytes. We could just open up in the hex editor locally, but we can do it here as well. So right here we have shell.php period PDF. 2E is period. So I'm going to click right there. I'm going to put this a null byte. So we have shell.php null byte.pdf. And then it also happens near the end of this file, right? Right here. And let's see, where is the 2E? Right here. So I'm going to put this one as a null byte as well. And then we're going to send the payload. And if we scroll down, let's see, it should say, there we go, file uploaded successfully. And it gives us the link here. So let's go ahead and copy this. I'm going to start a shell rl wrap nc lvnp 9001. And let's go and request this file. I can turn BurpSuite off, enter, send it. Hopefully we get a callback. My IP is 10.10.14.8. And you know what I forgot to do? We forgot to change the IP address in the shell. It's sending a shell to 127.0.0.1. So let's go ahead and update that real quick. 10.10.14.8. 9001. Save that. And then let's remove shell.zip. Zip. Shell.zip like this. Recreate it. And I'm going to go redo the proxy. Click back. Browse. Shell.zip. Intercept. That is on. Submit. Send it to repeater. And we have to do the same thing again. So there are 2 spots where we have the file name right here. PDF. Where are we? There we go. Null byte. Scroll all the way down. And right here. Okay, send it. We should look at the response. File uploaded successfully. We can access it here. Okay. Disable BurpSuite. Click on it. And I don't have my reverse shell listening. It's taking its time to send us the shell. Let's see. Oh, there we go. We got a shell. Awesome. So I did say there are two ways we can do this. There is another attack, which I think is arguably cooler than putting the null byte in. So I'm going to go back over to Google, and I'm going to Google zip concatenation attack. And let's see. I don't think this is the post I wanted. Where is it? Here we go. And this was common in phishing attacks, because what it's actually going to do is have the zip behave different ways based upon the program that is executing it. So what they do is create a first zip, a second zip, and then put them on top of each other. And then sometimes the zip program will pull from the very first file. Sometimes it pulls from the second file. And we can demonstrate that pretty easily on our box. So let's go. We have two zips, actually. We have shell.zip. I'm going to actually delete shell.zip real quick. Or we don't have to delete it. Let's just do shell.php PDF. I'm going to call this just shell.php now. And we'll zip. We'll call it stacked.zip on shell.php. So we have two zips. We have the, let's do legit and then stacked. So I'm going to do cat legit, then stacked, and we're going to call it both.zip. And if I do an unzip-l on both, it tells me shell.php is in this. So it's reading from this second zip, right? If I do a 7-zip-l both.zip, we have the other zip, ipsec.pdf. So this attack is popular because they would attach zips to emails, and then the anti-spam filter would open it. It would see, oh, this is a legitimate zip. So it makes its way to the person's like Outlook inbox or whatever email program they're using. They click on the zip. Windows is using WinRAR or something, which pulls the second zip in that, and that's where the payload is. So it bypassed like email scanning because the scanner was opening a different zip, which is weird. It's just weird behavior by the zips, right? So what happens now if we just upload this both.zip to the server? Let's go over to BurpSuite, turn intercept off. Let's go browse, and I'm going to zip or execute both.zip. We can submit it. And I think it just hung on me. That was weird. Both.zip, submit, hung. That wasn't happening before. I wonder if it's because we have a shell going. So I'll exit that shell. Hopefully I don't regret that. Let's do both, submit. Still hanging. I'm just going to say, let's remove both.zip. I'm only going to put one file in the zip. So we can say, let's do rm legit. We'll do zip legit.zip. And we'll only put ipsec.pdf in this. And then we can cat ipsec.pdf. And then shell, not ipsec.pdf, ipsec.zip, or legit.zip, that's what it was, to both.zip. Okay, hopefully this works. It's going to refresh this page, make sure everything's good there. Where is both? Submit. There we go. So maybe it was just the zip I was using. I know I did a lot of weird things in that zip, but we should be able to do a RL wrap. Let's click here. It's opening ipsec.pdf, but if we say what we called it, shell.php, we should get a callback. So that is two different ways we can exploit that, right? Because the PHP code, it's going into the zip, reading it, and then supposedly, I guess, it's using a different program to extract the zip. So stacked works there as well. So hopefully both those attacks made sense and you enjoyed that. But let's go take a look at what's on the server. Whenever I exploit a server and land on the web server, my first step is always looking for the database. So let's go into the root directory, do a dir. There is a db.php. If we type that out, we can get credentials to the database. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to creds.txt real quick. We can say MySQL. Let's copy this user, which I think I had on my clipboard. I do. And then we can also put the password here. Okay. We could save the database name, but we don't need to. Since this is examp, examp's going to have a MySQL directory and bin. And then it has the mysql.exe program. We could open up Chisel and then tunnel to access MySQL, but might as well just use the binary that's on the box, right? So we can do /mysql.exe u, and then I'm going to purposely make a mistake here because this is a weird batch quirk, not bash, but batch command prompt. So we'll do mysql-u -p. We need to put this password in now. Copy, paste, and then what else do we need? -e, show databases. This is going to be the query, right? If I run this, it doesn't work. I expected an actual error message. I wonder if P doesn't have a space after it. There we go. Access denied. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to do PowerShell. I'm going to run it again. And then we get the results. This seems bonkers, right? Command prompt is one of the few that single quotes will actually still expand things. We want double quotes actually in bash, right? Because what's happening is it's treating this password as a special character. Like I think it's the @ sign or maybe the exclamation point, but that's not actually getting sent as that. It's treating it as some weird special character that we would have to escape in single quotes. If we change it to double quotes, change everything to double quotes. I was going to say it works. Well, that is the issue. I swear it worked before. Oh, we have a single quote still. There we go. So that is the weird quirk. And command prompt, you should always use double quotes, not single quotes. Everywhere else, it's normally single quotes, except in Golang, which is backticks. But let's go back. I'm just going to use PowerShell because it's easier to work with. So we have the database there. If I do a -D, we can specify which database we want to use. So I'm going to copy this, put it here, and then instead of show databases, we can do show tables. We see the tables in here. We have courses, users. So I want to get the users out of this. So let's do describe users. We can see the columns, ID, first name, last name, username, email, password. Probably username, password is what we want, right? So we can say select, let's do username, password from users. There we go. We have everything we need. So I'm going to copy this. And then I'm going to go over to the Kraken, which is just another box on my network. I don't like cracking on my host machine because I'm recording as well. And I can drop frames when I'm using something like Hashcat. I just wouldn't crack in a VM. You can crack on your host machine if you want, but if you crack in a VM, it's going to go extremely slow. So let's do v hashes. This name is certificate. I'm just going to call it dat hashes because I forgot what format it is in. It looks like bcrypt to me. Let's replace all this with colons. I probably should write a sed script to do it quickly, but by the time I figure out exactly what the syntax with that is, I probably would have finished already. I thought I erased like an extra character on Steve's. Apparently it's just Stev, right? But there we go. So let's do /hashcat dash, I think it's dash username, hashes, and then opt word list rocku. Let's see if it initializes correctly. It detects a few potential bcrypts. I'm going to guess it's just the standard Unix one because that's what it looks like. I have no reason to think it's using Form, CMRS, or e-commerce. So let's do -m 3200. See if we get any results here. So it's going to initialize the devices and probably take a minute or two to crack, I'm thinking. Let's see how long it says if we get any results immediately. We probably should get my result immediately because it was password. We also get a second user. The password is blink182. I'm just going to kill this out because I don't think we crack anything else. But I'm going to do the --show command. And that tells me Sara.B's password is blink182. So let's go ahead and vcreds.txt, Sara.B, was it capital? I think it was a capital B, right? Yep, it is. Okay. So we want to see if that's actually the correct username because the Active Directory and website could mismatch. So what I'm going to do is a get AD user -filter star. I'm going to select on SAM account name, and that's going to list all the users in this. And we have Sara.B right here. So we have a potential user. Let's do netexec SMB, DC01 certificate HTTP, Sara.B, password of blink182. And let's see. That is good. We can't access the box. We can do --shares to see if we have anything there. We could also now run like RustHound. We can check if WinRM is enabled. So we can do, instead of SMB, WinRM, and see if we can access it this way. It looks like we can because it says pwned. So let's go ahead and say evil WinRM -IUP. That all looks good, right? So we're going to go here and we get in. If I look at the desktop, we don't have a user.txt. If we look at directory, there is a directory called WSO1. If we look here, we have description.txt and a PCAP. So I'm going to do a type description.txt. And we see a note here that says workstation 1's not able to open reports, and they had attached a PCAP for analysis. So I'm just going to go ahead and download this PCAP. So we'll do a download on the PCAP. And while that downloads, let's go ahead, create a new pane. There we go. So I'm going to do Wireshark, then WSO1 PCAP. And we have quite a big packet capture actually, right? We see SMB2 and some various other things. My very first thought whenever I get a PCAP is running a program called pcreds. So if I search for pcreds, let's see, we have it here. Git clone pcreds, and then we can go in there. We have to do a Python 3-env, vm.vm, source vm, bin activate. They don't have a requirements.txt. What? Oh. There we go. We need to install a few libraries. So I'm just going to install these two. I think I have libpcapdev already on my system. But if we run these, now we should be able to run pcreds. We can give it the file name of, what was it? There we go. And it extracts a netntlm v2 hash. Now, we could try cracking this. I'm not going to because it doesn't actually crack anything, but I just want to show the very first thing I do when I get a PCAP file, I run against pcreds. This hasn't been updated to add a lot of new hashes. If we look at this though, if we type, let's see, Kerberos, we can see a Kerberos request. And at first it attempts this pre-auth AS request, and then we see pre-auth is required. And then we do this AS request. And this is going to be, it's not that hard, but it's, I guess, one of those things like, how do you know this? Well, normally just going to Google and reading things, and HackTheBox is a great way to come across these things. So let's Google AS rec. I think from router is the post I came across. Yeah, this is good. I would highly, highly, highly recommend reading this. They do create a program at the bottom of it that can just do it automatically. Let's see. Is this the one I used? I will do it manually as well. GitHub. OpenWRT. Is this it? I don't think this is the actual program I used. It'll probably work, but let's go find a different one. Back to Google. I'm just going to Google Kerberos 5 roast parser. I think this is a more up-to-date one. So I'm just going to git clone this real quick. I can leave it in the Python VM. That is fine. Python 3, Kerberos 5 roast parser. Let's give it the PCAP. And then it wants what type of request. So we can do AS request. And it gives us the hash, right? So the blog post tells us exactly how that's created, but I can just walk through that. Let's see. So it's a Kerberos 5 PA. So if we go here, I think Kerberos 5 PA just means AS request. So I'm going to hold on, put this. So this is the type of request it is. So 18, where's 18 coming from? That is the encryption, I think. Let's see, that is in here somewhere. Sname, encryption type, 18. So that's where it's getting it from. This is a AS256 HMAC SHA-1. Let's see, we got Lion.SK. That is going to be the CNAME. And then this realm, this is actually incorrect in a request, which is weird. I think if you look at the actual Kerberos 5 rep roaster, it's pulling, like, it looks at the PCAP, and when it sees this, then it pulls the updated realm of, let's see, if we go to ticket, oh, there we go, certificate.htb. But I think what's happening here actually is we attempt to make the request, and it tells us pre-authentication is required. And when we look at this, I want to say this gives us the salt, right? Time info, PA data. No, is this it? Yeah, there we go. So the salt of certificate HTTP and Lion.SK. So I think it's actually encrypting with this. So it tells us, hey, pre-authentication is required to do this AS request. And then we use the salt in order to encrypt. And it uses this E type of 18. And what is it actually encrypting, right? It doesn't encrypt the ticket itself. The only thing that is encrypted is the timestamp. I'm trying to figure out exactly where it says that here. There we go. There we go. Encrypted timestamp. And it's really odd how it does it. It uses the timestamp kind of as a signature, I guess, is a good way to put it, right? It's got to encrypt it with something. What's it going to encrypt it with that both the client and server know? The NTLM hash of the user. So it encrypts the current time with the NTLM hash and then salts it with the realm and username. And that is where we get the certificate.htb and Lion.SK. And that's why we can crack this hash, because this piece right here, that's going to be the cipher. 23. It starts with 23F and ends with F0. If we go over here, we have the cipher 23, and that's going to end at F0. I bet if I do a copy value, put this here, wrong clipboard, there we go. So this is the same exact hash, right? So if we go here, we can delete word, paste, identical. So that's where it's pulling it from. It's just the cipher here, which is the encrypted timestamp. And this is encrypted with the NTLM hash of the user. So when we go to hashcat, we give it a word list. It takes every word in that word list, NTLM hashes it, and then tries to decrypt this to see if it gets to a timestamp. That's essentially how this works in a nutshell. So let's cat hashes.txt. We can grab this, go back over to the Kraken v hashes. This can be certificate dot Kerberos 5, I guess. Paste this. I'm sure I've done like Kerberos.18 or something, but oh well. Hashcat hashes opt word list rocku.txt. And let's see if we get anything here. Finishing test. And there we go. One recovered. So if we do a -- shell, we can see Lion.SK is a keyboard walk. So we can try testing this out real quick. NXC, SMB, 1010, 1171, Lion.SK, password. And there's no reason why I use the IP address instead of hostname. I've been using hostname a lot. I guess, typed the IP address out of habit. But there we go. Lion.SK can also access, or we also have Lion.SK's password. So I can do v creds.txt, Lion.SK, put in this that's not the password. 2WSX, I think that's the password. That should be. Let's deactivate because there's no need to be in that pip virtual environment. And we can go back here and see if we could WinRM. I'm going to show two different ways we can enumerate this information. First, since we can WinRM, we could just look at what groups we're a member of, right? So if we do -I like this, and who am I /all, this should tell me the groups, right? Let's see, enabled by default. Well-known. Man, it is. Okay, there we go. Here's the group name. Domain CRA. I'm guessing that is going to be like a certificate registration agent or something, which means we probably should look at Certipy output, right? This is the key piece to notice. But if we ran like RustHound, or we could run sharphound on the box, but I like doing things on my box when I can. So I'm going to run RustHound real quick. So I'm going to do RustHound domain certificate.htb, username Lion.SK, password of that keyboard walk. I'm pretty sure I just typed that correctly. Let's see. I probably should have added -z for zip, but oh well. It worked. Let's go Bloodhound server, docker compose up -d, start the containers, and then we will upload Bloodhound data and look at the certificate that way. If you use the Python ingester, the Python ingester doesn't do certificates, at least last time I checked. That's why I switched over to RustHound, because I think it does a much better job at downloading data for Bloodhound. So again, if you use the Python ingester, you probably won't be able to get the same results you're about to see here. There we go. Looks like it is started up. Localhost, I want to say 8088 is where I run Bloodhound. It is. We can log in. And then we're going to upload the data. So click on administration, upload files, and then let's go over to HTTP, certificate, all these JSON files, upload. And I'm going to pause the video because it normally takes a minute or two to ingest, and then we'll look at the results. And there we go. It has been ingested. I don't know exactly what file fails to ingest, but that doesn't really matter. I'm used to seeing that by now. If I look at the search, Lion.SK, we could add them to owned real quick. And let's see. If we do outbound object control, we can see he's a member of domain users, which gives the ability to enroll some certificates, but also domain CRA managers, which gives us access to this delegated certificate registration agent. At least I think that's what it stands for. But this is going to be the key thing. So let's run Certipy and see if this is vulnerable to anything. So let's do, I'm just going to go into new pane to make it easy. Certipy, find you Lion.SK password. of that keyboard walk, then target certificate.hdb, and we want the -vulnerable flag. And see what it shows. DNS resolution failed. Is that an issue? Did I type in this? Certificate? Nope, that looks fine. I think it's querying it. Yeah, it is. Awesome. I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but it's retrieving the configuration there, checking web enrollment, and it should output the results soon. And it's going to give me a text file that I just have to cat. I think if you run the old version of Certipy, it would just output it out to standard out, or maybe there's a flag like -std out. But I'm going to cat this file. And then we see it is vulnerable to ES3. The template has the request agent EKU set. And what that's going to enable us to do is register certificates on behalf of other users. We could Google this and get to a blog post. Let's see, there's probably, ES3 ADCS exploit. I'm not going to read the blog post, but find one. This is good. This RBT security is a good article if you wanted to read up more on it, right? It has all the details. But to exploit it, we're going to first do a request to get a certificate out. So I'm going to do Certipy request. Where's that find command? We'll do request like that, just so we don't have to type the password again. And then we want the CA, and that is certificate. What was it? -LTD CA. That is the authority. And then the template that we want is going to be delegated. And this should give us a PFX file that we can then use to request other certificates. So hopefully this works. Come on. There we go. We have the PFX right here. So what we want to do is, let's see, do we specify, we want signed user like this. And then we can say on behalf of, I'm going to try the administrator. Administrator, there we go, -PFX, Lion.SK PFX. So what we're doing here is we're requesting a certificate from the signed user template and saying, hey, the delegated CRA certificate is telling us that you can assign us tickets on behalf of other users. And if we request this, it's actually going to fail because the email is unavailable. And for this to work, it's using signed user, so we need to have an email. And if we go back to where we have a shell, which one did I use? Get AD user. Right here. Yeah, this is what I did. Let's select SAM account name, and I think the property is actually mail, not email. And we probably need -properties star. There we go. We can see administrator doesn't have an actual email. So we can request certificates on any of these users. We could look around in Bloodhound to see if there's anything that sticks out, but what I'm going to do is a get AD group and look at what groups are in Active Directory. And it's going to be sorted by the domain SID. So we'll get the groups as they were created. And I think I screwed this up. I probably need like a -filter. Is it -filter star? There we go. Let's do select. We'll do SAM account name maybe. And I'm going to do SID as well. Oh, my whole shell died there. Okay. We'll do it from Evil 1rem. Get AD group, filter star, select SAM account name SID. Did I misspell that? I'm just going to do name. I think that's the one I normally use. There we go. So I'm going to ignore all these like ones that come with Windows. Right here, this is still one that comes with Windows if you install the DNS service, the DNS admin. We have CRA managers, finance, HR, marketing, help desk, domain storage managers. So we already have an account in domain CRA managers. That's not interesting to us. If we saw file shares, I may request things here. Help desk is another good one, maybe that has a Bloodhound path. But domain storage managers, this sounds like it has the most control because they're a storage manager. Maybe they have physical access to, or they have administrative access to the hard drives, right? So I'm going to do a get AD group member on the domain storage members, managers, and we see Ryan. His name is Ryan.K. Awesome. So I'm going to go back to this certificate. And what we're going to do is certificate Ryan.K. and request a certificate for him. And if we go back to Bloodhound, let's see, does Ryan.K have any paths? Oh, come on. Ryan.K. Let's say mark as owned. I think I added the last one to high value instead of owned. I'll look at outbound object control. This is just because member of domain user. Let's see, cipher. Where is shortest path from? Let's see, unconstrained. Come on, owned objects. There we go. Is there anything? So Ryan.K, nope, we did mark the Lion as owned. Doesn't look like there's anything too interesting, right? So we have the certificate for Ryan.K. So this one, let us create the certificate. I'm going to use a Certipy auth pfx Ryan.K, then DCIP 10.10.11.71. And this should get me the NTLM hash of Ryan. So let's see if we get that. Getting TGT. It may actually fail because, yep, the clock skew. So let's do sudo ntp date on the IP address, fix our time. And if you do that and it doesn't work, you probably have your time being set by OpenVM tools. So you want to open VirtualBox or VMware, like go in the properties of your VM and disable time sync there. You don't want your OpenVM tool syncing time. That's probably the most likely candidate. But there we go. We have the NTLM hash of Ryan.K. So if I do eval win rm -u Ryan.K capital H, then we need -I 10.10.11.71. We can do a who am I /all. And we have SeManageVolumePrivilegee. And this is a dangerous privilege. With this, we can take control over the file system. Let's see, exploit. And I'm going to use the exploit from Enox. There's one from XCT as well. I don't know if that's doing the same exact thing, but when solving the box, I used this one. I liked it because it had a compiled exe for me to use really easily. So let's just do a wget on this. And then I'm going to go cd program data, upload this. And what it's actually going to do is replace the domain administrator ACL with everyone. And that's going to enable us to go into files, right? So if I do a dir on /users administrator desktop, it's going to fail right now, right? So let's run this exploit. So I'm going to do a /, the exploit. It says changed 841 entries. We do a dir, and there we go. We go, whoops, let's change that to a CD now. If we try to access root.txt, we can't. And the reason why is it is encrypted. It's using the Windows Encrypted File System, EFS. So we need administrators NTLM hash to be able to access this file, essentially. So we're not done just yet. We do have access to the entire file system, so we could potentially like download ntds.dit and extract it that way. But I think the coolest thing to do would be just to use the golden ticket attack, because I haven't really showed that before. So I'm going to go back into program data, and we want to go back to our Certipy output. Let's see, do we have find? Yep, here we go. I probably catted it, right? There we go. So this is going to be the master certificate, right? And we have the serial number right here. So what I'm going to do is export it. So I'm going to use, what is it? Cert util, export pfx. And then what we want to specify is the serial number and then the file name. So I'm just going to do ca.pfx. And this is going to export the certificate of the root authority. So this is going to be what signs all the tickets, right? So now if I download ca.pfx, we'll now be able to forge tickets of anyone we want. We can sign anything, right? We have the golden ticket. So I'm going to do a Certipy and then forge. We'll give it the ca.pfx of ca.pfx, the user principal name of administrator at certificate.hdb, and then we need the subject. Let's go back to Bloodhound. We are logged out for some reason. Let's see. Let's close our other tabs. Administrator. There we go. Where is the UPN? We'll just give it the distinguished name. There we go. And I think that's all we need, right? Yep. And this doesn't even talk to the domain. It just forges the certificate with the CA. Like, it doesn't need to reach out to the domain, but now we can use this to authenticate, right? So we can specify PFX, administrator forged, DCIP 10.10.11.71. And we get the NTLM hash right here. So let's do evil win RM -I 10.10.11.71 U administrator capital H for the hash. And this lets us in. So we can do cd desktop dir type root.txt. And there we go. That is the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next time.